All right, let's do a sound check. Although we may have an issue. I have not heard from AD. And I don't see him online. Jan, Christina, let me know how it sounds. And before Jan tells me, I'm going to start the recording. Assuming we even have a show tonight. Because I don't know what is going on with AD. We will just hang out for a little bit. I need to put that up there. Anybody comes by can see it. So while we're in, AD's coming online. So here we go. As soon as I hear from him, I will give him a call. Probably need to duck out for a second. Mink? All right, I'm going to be right back.
tape gun that is ruling my life right now.
I bet.
And ruining my life at the same time.
All right, so we're about ready to start. We 80 and I didn't get to have our couple minutes before the show because Skype gave us some really weird problem that ended up making me have to reboot to get that computer all back up and going. So I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and normally we just we connect 5 minutes before we're rolling and it's good to go. And I couldn't even get to you 5 minutes before. So
yeah, that was weird. All right, so we're back up and going now. I've got all the recordings happening. So let's get rid of pre-show and let me get something set and then we'll get rolling. And I'm not going to jinx myself by saying anything about that one computer that crashed all the time until the post show. So hang out for a couple minutes on the post show, and then I'll talk about it, assuming nothing happens.
Cool.
All right. You ready, AD?
I am. Yes.
One thing before we start. So we're off of December now. We're moving into January. Do we want to do the giveaway? Start the giveaway up again?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think the first one in the beginners is the one I want to give it to.
Okay. So I'm looking at show 24.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And I just see one slideshow. It says beginner group. Is there more?
Yeah, if you go down to the
I see it. Yep. Scrolling through it. Yes. Yep. I'm going to are we going to tempt fate and try to do a screen share tonight? I think we shouldn't.
We don't have to. Yeah. We can do that next week.
Yeah.
Or next time. Next time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the images I wanted to show it to, but I can explain it. That's okay. Good. That's fine.
All right, let's get started. All right, this is jpeg2RAW photo review show number 24, and now we're past the December images. We're getting caught up. AD, we're back into January. We're into January. Before we get started, I wanted to mention how you can enter if you want to enter. And I know Jan was out in chat tonight mentioning that she was trying to enter, and she had a little bit of trouble because there's something there, and I need to add another thing to it. But if you want to enter, you go to jpeg2RAW.com/contest or one of our Facebook groups, and then on our web page it shows you the regular group, the beginner group, and what the theme is. This month, both groups have a theme. Dream. There's some interesting photos being entered in the Dream contest. There's some really talented people in that group. And for beginners group, it's outdoor. You can enter through this webpage where there is a size limit, a file size limit. It will tell you when you go to enter it. The size limit is 2 meg. What I need to add is a suggestion on the dimensions because we don't need the full-size RAW file, especially if you're shooting with a D850 or one of the big Sonys or Canons where the files are that big. We don't need it that big. So the limit on the file size, if you go in through the website, is 2 meg. So you want to shrink that file size down a little bit. But most people enter through the Facebook groups, and you have the links are right there. There's even, because I know every once in a while somebody has trouble with how do I enter through Facebook. There's a link right here. You click that, and it'll give you the step-by-step on how to enter into the Facebook group there.
There's no size limit on the Facebook upload, by the way. Facebook automatically will restrict the size and shrink your file automatically, albeit there's not as good quality as uploading directly to the jpeg2RAW site. And I just want to mention, you were talking about file size. 2650 long edge at 72 DPI is a small file, and if you set your JPEG to about 75%, we'll get a pretty clean file and big enough we can look at it. So
very good. All right, so that is how you enter. If you don't get in for March, how many days we have left? We only have 6 days left.
Oh, yes.
I know, it's going by fast. We'll do another one next month. Yep. All right, try. So tonight we're going to start off with images from the beginner group. And let's go with this first one up in the beginners group from William Alexander.
Yes.
And he gave a very detailed explanation of what he entered. And I wish if you go in the Facebook group and the beginners group, go over there and look at it. He gave a lot of information, probably too much for me to type all right here, or read right here. But he gives a lot of AD. I don't know if you got the chance to see all this, but he gives a lot of information on what he was trying to do with this image.
Yeah, there is a lot of information here. He talks about the city and issues of they don't want him to use chainsaws to trim trees, to cut down telephone poles, and cut down telephone poles. Yeah, I don't think any city would like you cutting down telephone poles. So anybody can get a clean shot. So he's just basically kind of joking around that you can't cut the trees down just to get a clean shot. He inserted a graphic element to mask those on the upper left-hand side. Okay. So let me just. So you have a high contrast black and white image, all right? And I appreciate what you're trying to do here with that. The thing is that anytime you put and we've talked about this before, anytime you put a black or a dark high contrast triangle in a corner, like it's in the upper left-hand corner, your eye is drawn to that. It's a human trait. Mm-hmm. Easily could have put the clone tool on this and probably cloned whatever was up there out, or done some extra work and cloned out all of the trees and everything. It's a difficult thing, if you're trying to take this shot. I'm trying to read through this while I'm talking as well. So a couple of things. All right.
You want me to read it?
Well, I want to. So I'm trying to go through it here really quick. Just I want to share with everybody. He talks a lot about. Okay, I'm going to try to do this as kindly as possible. So William, please trust me when I read this. I'm trying to help you move forward, brother. This is what I do. I'm not cutting you down here, but you get a whole lot less talk. If you've got to explain your image this much, it ain't working. And so there's a lot of things in here about the perspective and leaning the image back. Okay, there's certain rules to, like, if you lean an image back, what you do to the image is you make an image overpowering. So, if you want this building to be overpowering, then the leaned back kind of look gives it an ominous look. There's a lot of excuses and a lot of things I'm seeing in the explanation. And I'm not sure, it might be a shot that you can't take. Yeah. I've seen. So my question, I would probably go back a little bit here, and I would ask, it's not too much information. It's too much writing off everything that you should have fixed in the photo. Okay, so if I see this much stuff, I'm thinking, okay, everything here is screaming at you, don't take the shot from here.
I'm just wondering if it's too tight, because if there's something right there, there may not be an image that you could take,
Right. It's very hard for me to say without going there and working with William one-on-one on the spot, which I've done with photographers, and maybe explaining what we can and cannot do. And it might be, was this a photo for the developer? Because this is a building that looks like it's being built. There's a lot of construction stuff around. There's everything here. Why was this photo taken? Like, there's a lot of explanation about, so I'll just give you an example. Be it right or wrong, those elements seem to draw the eye over and past the subject, stopping and bouncing back over. You're just telling me, it's not good.
Well,
the tone is great on the image. I love the toning. I think it's a cool subject. I like the light. I like everything you got going on there is great. But all of the things that you wrote in there about the biggest eye catcher here is the tree branches. Okay. They point, and in a 2D perceptual cast, I'm sorry, I stop right there. I'm like, this is a thing where if you've got that much going on and you're getting into your image that much, you've got to know that maybe this isn't the place to take this image at. Maybe you need to move around. Maybe you can't move around. Maybe you have to think about post-editing and whether or not you can cut things out. Are you shooting this for, like, the guy who owns the building and he wants a picture of what's going on and you wanted to make it artistic? You wanted to give it some power, all of that stuff. I agree with all of those things that you said in certain areas. But you explained away a lot of the image, and I'm left with nothing at the end of that other than you took a nice black and white. I like the tone, but there are a lot of rule breakers in here and a lot of write-up that kind of breaks those rules. I would love to see more of the area around this and help you create this image. There is a leading line established here with the sidewalk and the building going off into the horizon. Is there something you can use with that, whether those trees are there or not? You know, and if the trees are a problem in the image, you either have to work with them or you have to learn how to post remove them. That's your only options. You can't give this image to a contractor or somebody who's trying to promote this to a building developer and say all of those things you said. They don't want that. What the developer wants is, look at my awesome building, invest in me, right? They don't want to read a whole. That's for the brochure of people moving into the place, really.
It sounds like maybe he needs to go wider or tighter. I
don't know. It's really hard for me to say.
Yeah.
Right. I could say that. I could say go wider, go longer, go, try a different angle. I love all the light and everything in the processing is wonderful. So I know you got that down, man. That's not a problem. But it's basically the way the building is leaning back. And it's also perspective skewed, as in making a towering, like, when we take a picture of a building and we want it to look ominous, we tend to give it that lean back look, but we need our perspective lines to be centered. This is not centered. It's actually leaning off to the right. So it looks like the building's tipping back. You're putting tension in an image. Is that what we're going for here? I didn't see anywhere here where you told me what mood you're going for, why you took the photo. All I saw was a lot of reasoning why everything's there. I know that. This is what I do every week. So yeah, when you give me information, try to tell me why you push the shutter button. That's the important part to me. I don't need to know time of day. If you have questions on camera settings, I don't think this guy has any problems with his camera. It looks like he knows how to use the camera to get exposure. He knows how to do the post-processing to get the shadows and the highlights. It's bright, it's high key in the front, but it's not blown out. And without putting on a histogram, I can't tell you exactly what that looks like, but it looks pretty good to me. So I think it just comes down to, again, are we looking at a photo or are we looking at a paragraph that's explaining why I did things in the photo? Because photos only work if you don't have to explain them. We talked about this last week about naming our photos, and I used to name all of my photos, so it'd give people a direction, right, so that they could understand my images better. I felt like if I gave this a cool name and it kind of put them in that world, then they would look at the image, and it does. It helped them get what I was making up in my head. Yeah. But as I progressed and as I got better, the images started speaking for themselves, and now I don't do those sort of write-ups anymore. I write about the location, but I don't write about the image specific. The image is there to speak for itself. And so that's just something that I think that we grow into. So there's a lot of explanation here, which I would love to see William submit more images and even ask, if he has more images of this area so we could look at it a little bit better, Mike, and maybe you and I could say, hey, why don't you try something a little wider, or maybe compress the image a little bit by using a long lens from a long ways away, which you'll be surprised. This is the thing that blows people's minds. You can shoot with this lens every angle and those trees will be in the way. But did you know that you can go down the street with a 200 millimeter and shoot almost the same angle from down the street and compress the image? Those trees suddenly are not there anymore, but you still get the whole building.
Yeah.
So consider moving your location, trying a longer focal length, trying a shorter focal length, and until you can show us more of the image or the area so we can kind of help you out a little bit, I'm afraid I'm kind of stumped beyond that. But the tone and everything else, what you're doing with the black and white, I love it. I just, I can't go any further than what's already written, there. So.
All right. That's our first one from William. All right, let's go to the next one, which is Christina Binge, and here with her dog, come get in a bath. What does she say here?
Love this photo.
Not amused when I bust out the camera during bath time, because I guess that means got to sit there a little bit longer before I can jump off and go shake.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the towel defeats the purpose because we can't get you all wet if you have a towel.
Yeah.
I love this image, Mike. This image inspired me when we talked about Christina's wonderful puppy image last week.
Yeah.
And the bath time photos, which are always fun. And this is an adorable photo. But for me, portrait. Get me in closer. Get rid of the stuff in the background. Don't need the white with the lavender and the dog. Boom, done. Amazing photo.
Yeah. So I guess from that you don't need the other stuff in the tub to get the idea the dog just had a bath.
Absolutely not. It's a wet dog with a towel in a white background with tile. That's the whole story. But close up to see those eyes. To get the softness of the towel and the more of the bokeh that's in the background, it's the stuff that I see, the shower curtain and the shampoo and the stuff in the background is competing with the dog. Yeah. I want to look over there. I want to say, oh, what kind of shampoo is she using? I mean, that's stupid for me to say that, but that's what your brain does. Sure. Your brain says, oh, what's that? I want to know what that is. Yeah. You take it out. It's competing. Get it out of there. Just give me the dog. Give me the in a portrait format. I don't think this needs to be in landscape. I think just put it a beautiful centered up portrait. This is one of those symmetrical images. It's all about puppy face with the towel. Yeah, that is it.
And it would really stand out with the white tub, the lavender towel, and the dog. It really stand out.
Minimizing your tones. Yeah. Lavender and the color of the dog are perfect contrasting tones with each other. So everything's working here except for the crop. If you crop this, it's done. It's a award-winning image, I think. Just like that.
Awesome. All right. Great photo there, Christina. All right. Up next is this image from Nancy Smith.
Yay, Nancy.
And what does Nancy say? After a total knee replacement, I had a real need to get my camera out and take photos. A quick snow shot with my granddaughter quelled the itch.
Ouch. Nancy, ouch.
Yeah, knee replacement does not sound fun.
That makes me hurt just thinking about it. I love everything about this. I'd say the same exact thing about this shot as I said about the last one. But you got a background here. Keep in mind, whenever we shoot landscapes and we put people in landscapes, and that means that in our hearts, we want to include the background as part of the story of the image, correct? Mm-hmm. That's why we use locations, right? We use the location to support the actor or the star or whatever in the portrait. So maybe here, moving her a little bit more into the third and give it. Yeah, so we're not competing for the center space. Right. So that's how that negative space thing works. And so when we move more towards the center, I'll tell you when that works. So if you were to go with an ultra wide format, say a 16:9 in a cinematic format, you generally will move a little bit to more towards center of the third to then balance the whole image with the background. That's a cinematic format. So when we have a standard, though, like a 5:7, like we have here, we want to go with the third. So I would put her in the thirds, and I would just, give the negative space, the background, kind of the support of her in the photo. She's a little bit too much in the center. And the other way you could go with this is exactly what I said about Christina's shot, is to make this a portrait and just go with her right in the center because she's nice and symmetrical. I mean, if you just don't look at her features and things, it's a symmetrical shape. It's a pyramid, so it works perfectly. But if you want to keep the background and it's important to you, and I like the color of the background, I think it tells a little bit of story in the snow. So this would just be one of those where she's just a little off the third, so it gives you that little off kind of feeling. Just go with the pure golden rule here, and you've, again, got another winner. I think these photos, all three of these photos with just minor things don't need to be in the beginners group. I appreciate that they are, so we have things to talk about. And that's all I'm doing here, by the way, guys, is these aren't hard criticisms. These are just little nudges just to have you try different things and play around with different things and see where your creativity goes. You won't understand any of this. I always tell people this when we talk about the rule of thirds and composition. And you know, it took me forever to understand the golden spiral and how to get it in a shot and all this stuff. And then one day it just kind of like it worked. And it was because I went through my images and I cropped them and I tried different things and used those little guides in Lightroom or whatever software you're using, Camera Raw or whatever. It wasn't until I actually did those crops and I could see the power of the image was stronger. I got a better, like I was just like, wow, that's weird. It's like a weight comes off you or something. You'll sense it if you really start doing that with your images. If you really start changing the crops, playing around with the golden rules, and just don't try to get fancy with where your compositions are or anything like that. Just go with the tried and true, and then compare it with what you started with, and see if you don't say to yourself, "Wow, okay, this just works better." And then after a while, you like, I don't even care what those rules are. You just take shots that work better. That's just the way it goes. You don't have to think about it.
I think we've talked about this a lot, AD, is that doing it in post, a lot of the things that you're recommending are things that you could do in post. And, the more you do those things, the more you'll actually see it when you're out shooting. Both Nancy and Christina have really good images that they ought to just go back and take a look at it with your recommendation. What do you think? What does Christina think? What does Nancy think when they try that? Do they like it better? And as you do that more, you'll start to get better at doing it in the field. Because the golden triangle or whatever you said, golden circle. Sorry,
golden spiral.
Golden spiral. I don't see that in the real world at all. I only can do it in post. So I'm not there yet.
No, and that's fine. And that's the beauty of why we have digital today. I mean, I took a film camera out west with me when I took my trip this past year, and I took a square format roll-to-flex camera with me, which was fixed at 80 millimeter, and everything's backwards in the thing. So I'm trying to compose and taking all the shots. I came home and I really, honestly, if I'm honest with myself, I had one photo out of 4 rolls of film that I was like, I don't have to crop this. I don't have to do anything with it. And that's expensive, man. It cost me $100 to get the film developed and get everything back and see that I only liked really one photo out of all of that. And so we're blessed with this ability to use digital today and be able to take as many photos as we want. And then we have so many megapixels today that we can crop in. So I always tell people, if you want to experiment, shoot back a little farther, give yourself some room, nail your focus, and nail your color, nail your exposure, make sure all that's right, make sure you're using the right f-stop. Once you've got all that down, shoot back a little bit farther, and then with the idea that you're practicing. Go home, put those things in Lightroom, put them in whatever your processing software you have. Try different crops, try different toning, try all of this kind of stuff so that you can practice. Because I think the weird thing that I've discovered with photography is, and I made this mistake, and so I'm just passing this along because I've made this mistake, but I get a new piece of equipment just before I go on a major trip. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome. This lens is going to be so cool. And I come back and I'm like, wow, that sucked. Because I didn't practice with that lens. I didn't get to know it. I missed things. Like when there was a kingfisher, when we were out we were in Grand Teton National Park. There was a kingfisher at Schwabacher's Landing that was doing his thing, doing the diving in the water. It was so awesome. I didn't have practice in with the 70 to 200 lens that I was renting. Mm-hmm. I missed every shot. I didn't get it. Well, my friends who shoot birds all the time, they nailed it because they've been practicing with that, and I'm here. I'm like, I got a lot of shots with that lens that I'm happy with that weren't birds flying around, but the one that would have been real coolest was this bird diving into the. I mean, who doesn't want to get that shot of the kingfisher diving into the water? Yeah. But I didn't. I couldn't do it because I haven't practiced with that lens. And we do that a lot as photographers. We get something new and we take it right out, and we come back and we're like, yeah, this isn't what I thought. but practice with it. At an early age, I learned to work with the materials that I had, and found out that even with the cheap stuff, it comes down to the person operating a lot of times. And if you don't put in the time with this practice, you're not going to see the results that you expect to get out of your equipment. So photography is that way with digital now. We should all practice a lot.
Well, I mean, you just think about the cameras today versus the cameras of yesterday.
Right.
All the great photos weren't taken with today's cameras. There's plenty of great photos.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
cell phones today, take amazing photos for what they are.
Willie says, yes, idea. Play with crops. Sometimes there's multiple photos within a photo.
Always. And when I see that, we talk about that a lot. We might talk about that tonight. I don't know. Looks like we've got some great images that I don't really see a lot of that in. In fact, you guys have followed along with us when we've talked about this before, where we see 3 photos in one, and there's your cue, right? Like try cropping each one of those out, and it'll blow your mind. You'll be like, wow, there really is like 3 cool photos in one. And that's a good sign that you need to start thinking about that when you're in the field. To start thinking about minimizing what you're seeing, because it's human nature for us to be in the field, to go visit someplace like Yosemite or go visit someplace like Grand Teton National Park and see the Grand Teton mountain range for the first time and be like, click, 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 everything. What I'm not thinking
you're overwhelmed by what you see.
Absolutely. Yeah. So practice is amazing in that, the art of Zen, of getting into your balance, of calming yourself, and it's hard to do when you're in an amazing place and everything is just bombarding you with beauty and amazing things. To settle yourself down and be like, I need to nail this. I need to get in the zone, which is very hard to do. When I was a musician, it was hard to do. I admired musicians who could get in the groove, as we call it, and there's a certain thing that happens to a musician when they get in the groove with other musicians, is when we all sync up on the downbeat, it feels suddenly like there's a unity of one among 5 or 6 people all at the same time. And it's truly an out-of-body experience. It kept me in music for many, many years, that feeling of perfect harmony, perfect pitch, along with the perfect beat and a groove happening. That's a drug. It's infectious. It's the same thing with photography. And for us to get in that groove, we need to be calm. We need to think about how to get in our zone. And it's tough. It's not the easiest thing to do, but practice gets you there. So
we'll talk about simple, complex themes and go into more simple themes. The one up next is from Amber.
Yes. Wow. Who is killing it right now? Who is killing it?
A number of people.
A number of people,
including Amber.
Yeah, Amber's had some images as of late. I've helped her out a little bit. I love the image that she's working on right now
for the Dream
in the
series.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just great. I love seeing people do that. And I'll tell you what, you can be a purist and go out and take 1 photo a year, and be like, this is my 1 photo that I took this year that I'm putting out to the public. But the person who's creative and is willing to try different things will always win me over. I mean, it's just, and that's what she's doing. She's trying different things. I think this is a good example of more macro work for her. She's combining in her new stuff like macro and full images all down into one, and digitally composing them together, which I think is really cool. Really cool. So yeah, I like this image. This is a very simple image. It says that she's working on her stock portfolio. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, can you find anything with this image, Mike, that you would change?
No, I love the detail that you can see in the coriander. Is that coriander seeds? I love the detail that you can see in those. I even like how off to the left is not as dense as it is to the right.
Yep. It's a good balance between the negative and the positive. Yeah. She's got the focus good in the area where it needs to be. She's got a nice, gentle line of the coriander going right through the thirds, the right-hand thirds. If you look, there's a nice line there. That really makes the image powerful.
I didn't catch that until you said it.
Well, you don't think about this. So the thing that's neat with composition and the rule of thirds that people don't understand is that it has a subliminal effect on the image. People look at them and they don't know why they like an image. It's because usually 90% of the time it's because of the composition. Followed along with that, when you combine that with the right light and the atmosphere and tone to the image, when you combine all of those, that's where you get the winning image. So for here, you got good composition, you have good tone. There aren't too many tones here. There's no like super contrast. It's drawing me all over the image, and you have a nice balance to the composition with the less of the coriander, a little bit of the wood showing through on the bottom. I really dig that. If anything here that she could have done, if I can make any suggestion at all, maybe think a little bit more about removing more of the coriander from the upper left if you try to shoot this again, and giving more of a diagonal line of the coriander, not specifically a row, but have them kind of thin out softly through a diagonal line, and see what that does for the image power and as well. But I think this image stands fine just on its own. I wouldn't change anything.
This image.
So, yep. Good work.
All right. Up next is this one from Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos is submitted, I think, one other time.
At least, yeah.
I think we've seen him one other time. I love this image. I think I am not a big fan of this sort of imagery. It's not my thing. Never has been. You guys know I've been with my girlfriend now for 15 years, and we're not married. We're perfectly happy. We've even talked about it at times, whether we think about it or not. We're just kind of like, I don't know, we're made for each other. So it's one of those things where
fix what's not broken.
Yeah, and I've never been one for like engagement photos, or I don't like to shoot weddings. Any of this sort of stuff is not my bag, but I like this image. I don't know if we talked about it here, or maybe you talked about it. For me, it's the background is the bench kind of. If we could have somehow shifted them just a little bit, so he blocked the bench and we just had nature, the sun, and the two of them without so pointing it out that it was a park. Unless the park has some sort of meaning to them that bench signifies. So that might be. I have no context. This is a blank underneath the image. I don't know if you have any text on it or not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're not concerned that you can see his face a little bit, but really hers is totally lost.
So on my calibrated monitor, I am seeing just kind of a shadow of her face. It is. There is, again, not my forte. So now that you point that out, the shape is a little different. So is this an image where we zoom in close and we get just her belly and him in the sun? That would be a very cool image. Or we try to do something where we can get a little bit more. Now there could be more information there for the silhouette of the face, and that might require her looking up or changing her pose a little bit. I think his pose, the hands and everything are all perfect as far as the pose goes. It's very classic, a very common pose that I see. But I don't know what information is there for maybe getting some backlighting to her. And this might be something where you have to use a fill flash.
Right.
And
the sun's so bright.
Right. And I'm a natural light shooter. If I shoot portraits, I love just using the sun and getting angles and using reflectors to get what I want. And you could have used maybe a reflector here on the ground to point up to maybe light her up a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what the situation was here or what equipment was available. And that's, again, right up. What are we going for?
Yeah, Carlos didn't give us the information because, without the information, there's a couple things for me. I'd either like to see them even more silhouette where I can't even see his face, and the sun is there, or a little less where I could see I can see both of their faces a little more.
Right. Yeah,
so
and I think
if the other.
Right, and I think if you move more towards the silhouette side, then you're kind of making more of a stock image at that point, whereas it could be anybody, right? And it just signifies then the baby. in family. That's what it signifies. But by putting them in the image and being able to see their faces a little bit better, now you've made it personal. So it's more of the image for them. Yeah. Rather than being, So I think we've got an artistic image here that borders on stock and borders on personal.
Right.
So we're kind of in the middle, right? And that's where I would try to make that just define it a little bit more. You've got a great idea here, and it just needs to be a little bit more defined. So.
All right, we have 2 more images, and the next one I included AD because I really love this image. I was a little disappointed it didn't make it into the final 3 in this, but we had some great photos. But normally we're not going to have 2 from the same person in the same show, but I like this image. So this one here from Christina Binge is the next one of this globe that's spinning, and I love that effect of the little globe. I guess it's a globe.
Yep.
Is it a globe? I'm assuming it's a globe that she has spinning there, and that motion feel.
Yeah. No. So it says here that she had a prompt for movement on her 365. So she's doing a 365-day project. It's a photo a day for 365 days. If you want to mentally challenge your photography, I highly recommend you consider a 365 project, but don't go into it lightly. Make sure that you stick to it and you do it, because I see a lot of people start them and very few people finish them. Scott Norris, who you've had on the show, did a wonderful 365, very inspirational.
Amazing,
and so I highly recommend them, but only if you're willing to make the commitment that you are absolutely going to do it. I have never done one simply because I cannot make that commitment. There would be no way that I would be able to do that with my schedule and things that I have to do. And I don't feel right now that I'm creatively missing out on anything right now. But it would be someplace that I would definitely go if I started to feel I was getting to the point where I needed a kick in the pants or I needed to boost my creativity. This is a perfect image to show that off. And I love the way that it looks like the bokeh out light in the back is like a moon that's going around the spinning globe. I think that's very cool.
I saw the lights back there, but I didn't connect that it could be a moon. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just
says
get that.
She's on year 2 actually of doing one of these. 365. Yeah, so that's like you, AD. I can't make that commitment either because I know I would fail. So
Absolutely.
There's no point in starting it for me. I think it's great for somebody who does either that or the lighter one, the 52-week challenge or 52.
Yeah, and that I might be able to handle. I might be able to handle the 52-week, especially now that I'm moving into an area where I'm going to have more subject matter. I've got lakes around me and waterfalls and all sorts of good stuff that I'm going to have easy access to. So that might be something that I would even consider as a 52-week once a week. But the 365s, man, they are the Iron Man triathlons of photography. And Christina, amazing, 2 years. I mean, holy cow. So, and I'm sure that you can. Yeah, you're out. She's out in chat right now. I'm sure you can attest to it has boosted your creativity looking back on when you started it and what you're doing now, for sure. So
she said she did it because she took a huge 2-year break from her camera, came back and felt like a new shooter. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if she's doing this for the 2nd year in a row, or even just the 1st year, at the end of that year, you have become one with your camera. You've learned your camera a lot more.
And she probably knows, like when I talked about this stuff earlier, that is, so guys, like especially the beginner group, right now it's probably seeming overwhelming to you. It's probably seeming like everybody's telling you to do something different. And when you get out with your camera, you're like, I really don't want to deal with all this. I just want to take photos because that's what I want to do. Trust me, focus on one mentor or one person at a time helping you. And after a while, the voice in your head telling you to compose it this way and do it that way and look for this light and do it, that all goes away. And it starts happening. You just start going out and you'll notice that your pictures just start coming back. Your photos start looking, better and right out of the camera better. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, probably up to 2 years ago, I'm going to say 2 years ago, I probably would never have shown a photo that I didn't post-process. So I wouldn't have been able to show you something out of my camera and said, yep, that's as good as I want to make it. And so I did the whole down the post-process road. Now, I actually, and I said this I think last week, I have a couple modes on my camera that shoot JPEG, and they're one is a high contrast black and white. One of them's a film kind of look thing. I absolutely love just turning that on, putting my camera on auto ISO, auto everything, and just going out and looking for things to pull the trigger on instead of thinking about how many brackets am I going to shoot? Am I got all my settings right? What's my f-stop? All this crap. It's an absolutely freeing, wonderful thing. And to take an image out of your camera and be willing to show it to the world and be proud of it is an amazing accomplishment. I mean, it's just it's just practice. I mean, if that was the theme for this week or this month, I'd say don't be afraid to just shoot as much as possible.
I have never put mine in auto, so you've done some. I mean, I say that I have put it in auto ISO,
right,
and auto white balance.
Yep. So
and auto focus,
right, and the difference, right, because you shoot a lot of sports.
Yeah.
So you can't chance letting the camera solve it, right?
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is, like, you go out on your walk, take your camera with you, and you're not shooting sports anymore. You're shooting some landscapes. You just want to play around. It is an unbelievable freeing thing. Not to have to process a RAW file, and B, just looking at out of the right on Lightroom and going, yep, I'm done. That's it. So, I mean, and that's just something to think about, trying that as a challenge, just for the fun of it. And I would never suggest that you go to a wedding or you go to a sporting event and you say, I'm going to shoot it all in auto, because that's especially if you're getting paid.
Disaster, yeah.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, you just don't know. The camera sees something different in the frame that you don't see, but you think you got the shot and you missed the definitive moment because the camera just looked at the wrong thing, which can happen with auto. Auto is not, it isn't perfect every time by any means. To put on autofocus and see how many times it's absolutely perfect every time. And we rely on autofocus a lot, and it's a big feature on a lot of cameras to get good autofocus, and that's why. So yeah, you would never do that at something where you're getting paid for, or that you're taking a trip where you're shooting for, a story or something like that you need to bring home specific images for. But I'm saying, like, to practice, you're going out to the park, you're going to whatever, just, it's an amazing freeing feeling.
I know landscape photographers who go out scouting, and all they go scouting with, they intentionally don't bring their camera. They just go with their phone.
Yep.
And go scouting with their phone, and because they're probably going to want to come back a different light or different scene, a different weather or whatever else, but they want to find those scenes, and they just take their phone. So yeah, definitely, the more you shoot, maybe not with your phone, but the more you shoot with your camera, the more you learn your camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in the long run, too, get back to Christina's image here. It shows Christina in this image, I think, and it's worthy of showing a second image from you, because this shows the hard work and dedication that you put into 2 years to be creative and to think of things like this to do with your camera. So awesome. Keep it up.
All right, last image. Funny you should mention Scott Norris. This last image is from Scott Norris.
My man.
Yes.
So a perfect example of minimalism, right?
Yep.
How much do we have in this shot? We got a building and sky. Done. Looks great. Love the tones. What can you say?
Oh, I love this image.
Right, and he's a ringer. He knows this. He knows. I mean, if he's watching, he knows that, whatever he's put on here. Scott creates images, very simple images like this all the time. This is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I had the privilege of shooting with Scott in Chicago and Milwaukee back in 2016. It was absolutely a blast with him. We walked all over. We walked 16 miles.
Wow.
16 miles in Chicago. And we walked all over the place and drank beer. And It was a long day, but it was, I would go back and do it again. In fact, I think we're going to do it again. And it was just an amazing time. Scott's a wonderful photographer. If any of you guys ever get to Chicago or Milwaukee, through JPEG2RAW or through Scott's website, do not hesitate to look him up and say, hey, will you go out and show me some sites and things? Because Scott and the thing is he's one of those dudes that knows like all the history and everything behind the buildings and all that stuff. So you get an education as well as.
And if you hadn't checked out his 365 project, I'm sure Christina probably already has. If you haven't checked it out, it's inspiring just to look at that. Because the things he came up with to get. If you're doing a 365, and I'm sure Christina's had to do this too, there's days where you have to really stretch it to figure out what you're going to shoot that day. And
Absolutely.
He did an amazing job. I'm sure this image here is a long shutter speed, long exposure.
It's funny you should say that. So,
It's not?
Scott, I want to talk about that a little bit too. Scott is a 3D artist. So he not only does photography, but he also incorporates a lot of his 3D technology and rendering into his photos. And you never would know it because he's very good at what he does. I would say that this is maybe not a long exposure image from Scott. And the reason why I say that is because Scott doesn't have the most expensive equipment. He is a starving artist, dude. He's like the hardest working person I've ever seen. He gets so many images from just like right around his house, which makes me furious all the time, how he comes up with these amazing ideas.
In his house, not just around his house, even in his house. Yeah.
And his equipment is really, his equipment is very basic. I think he has a D70, Mike.
Okay. Wow, that's old. Nikon D70? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I could be wrong, Scott. I apologize if I'm wrong, but it seems like you mentioned a D70 to me at some point in time. And you know what? I've always said to him, dude, you got to get a better camera. And he goes, I know. I just can't afford it right now. And then he comes out with an image like this, and you're like, damn. He doesn't need a better camera.
No,
he doesn't need anything
with what he's
more.
got. Yeah.
Right. And this is a perfect example of taking your equipment and learning it, stretching its possibilities, and then pushing it even harder and even farther. And it could have been a long exposure image. I'm going to say it probably wasn't. His lines are pretty clean here. He probably did some post-processing on this to complete the image. It says here he didn't make the vertical lines of the corners perfectly straight up and down to add to the dark feel of the image. See,
he
Scott
intentionally did it.
It isn't just me. It's also Scott who knows these tricks as well. Yeah, it gives an ominous feel, right? This has an ominous, like, I'm a building and you're not.
Yeah.
That's what this image says to me. I'm a great thing, and you just stay down there because you look at me and go, you're a great thing. And that's what he's done. I mean, look how solidly clean the lines are. It's just a very brutal. Yeah, it's a brutal architecture image. And he put a little flair on it with the clouds, but it works really well with this. And that's one thing that he loves to do. He loves to take the images like this and then let's just see where we can go with them.
I could see him having a gallery expedition or what do we call that with some of his images.
Yeah, I don't know if he's selling or not. He was talking a while. It's the tough thing to get going. First of all, if you're in a big city like Chicago or Milwaukee, galleries usually require that you rent them in order to get an exhibition. It's very rare that you are invited to a gallery as a solo artist. I was lucky and got an invite to a university gallery to do a solo show. And then they ended up not only doing that, but they also purchased 15 images of my work to be permanently in this gallery. So I was lucky in that respect. But Scott, I know, he's a struggling artist and he's very good at what he does, but he's got a young son and a wife and everything, he's got bills and all the stuff that we all have. And this is his living. So he does the 3D rendering. Some of his demo reels on YouTube for his 3D stuff, you'd probably be like, oh man, I saw that commercial or I've seen that. And yeah, that was Scott's work. Yeah. So he does that work, although that work is harder to come by now today than it was, 10 or 15 years ago. So yeah, he makes a pretty good living from Fine Art America and some of the other sites that he sells on. Plus, he has a photo tools store just like I do, and he has really cool tools that you can use, like splatter brushes and cloud brushes and all sorts of different cool things that he's done on his website as well. So I urge you guys to check out Scott Norris Photography. This wasn't a paid thing. Scott didn't submit this for us to say that. He's a good friend of mine, and
a former guest on the show.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that once you learn his stuff and you see how gracious he is and how willing he is to help other people, you want to support him because
Absolutely.
he's out there fighting the good fight every day, like we all are too. So, yeah, definitely check him out.
Well, good transition. You said that was our last image, and you mentioned the photo tools store. So if we go over to AD's website, theexplorographer.com, you have a photo tools store. And now that we're in a new month, go over here to photo tools.
I do, and it's actually working today because
it's fast. Look how fast that was.
I apologize to people who may have tried to use it a few days ago because I upgraded to PHP 7.2, and I had a bunch of things that weren't happy with that. Mm-hmm. So I had to go fix them, SSL being one of them. But I got everything going, and it works fine now. So, yeah. And I wanted to tell you, Mike, I have a new Sunset Lightroom preset pack coming out. Probably won't be in the next 10 days because I'm moving, but it's specifically for sunsets. And it's a really unique pack because it only affects HSL and curves, so that no matter what you've already adjusted on your image, it won't touch it. And it just touches the tones of the sky and the light.
Cool.
So it's kind of a unique little.
For that, yeah.
That's kind of, it'll be at a very reduced price point too, so it won't be very expensive for everybody who's interested in it.
Well, to be honest, nothing on your website. It's all you offer all of it at a reduced price. Yeah. So we give away the Lightroom preset. Let's see.
Yes.
If I can find it here. The premium Lightroom preset pack, and tonight's winner is, let me find his name and I'll pull it back up, is William Alexander.
Hey, William.
Congratulations,
awesome.
William. So if William, I'll be contacting you with that. And for anybody else, go out there and check. AD will have his new sunset presets coming up soon. Be looking for that. Just go over to explorographer.com. And from there, you can find all the different ways to connect with AD. Look right there, all that stuff. All the different ways to connect with him. But you can also go and check out his store, which is where I'm at right now. While you're checking out AD, don't forget to head over to thecreators.com over on Patreon, which is just thecreators.com. We'll get you there, right?
Yeah, yes, but it's Creator, TOURS.com.
Tours.
Yeah, tour at the end. It's a French version of the word. So.
And I know this whole move thing is causing you a pause, but you'll be coming back around better than ever in the coming months. Go check out that over there. There's all different levels from the $5 all the way up to $35 for basic mentoring, and full mentoring only $50.
Yeah, and it's not just photography. It's photography business. It's websites, SEO, podcasting. I mean, basically all this internet stuff and technology that we do. I'm there to help other people. So that's what I focus on is getting you up and running and expanding your business. And if you want to do like what Mike and I do, I can teach you how to do that. If you want to learn how to make videos to teach other people, I can teach you how to do that. If you want to learn how to monetize YouTube, I do that. So it's pretty much you choose your path, and then I'll help you get there.
Personally, I've been watching some of your Adobe Premiere videos, and I don't know if have you done any After Effects one yet, or have you just talked about maybe doing some? I can't remember.
So After Effects is so deep that I'm afraid to start it because there is just, I mean, I'm not a whiz kid in After Effects. I can show you how to do a lot of things, but I'm still learning a lot of like the Boolean operations and all the crazy stuff that you can do with After Effects to make text follow things. But I can do the simple stuff like putting text in a moving scene and having it pinned to a certain item. I did a little film of me holding a ball of fire and moving my hand around and then throwing the fire.
Cool.
So I know how to do like simple things like tracking of a dot on your hand or in a scene and that sort of stuff with After Effects. So I haven't done anything yet, Mike. That might be like a show and tell live thing I might end up doing, because it's one of those things where I could just go on and on and on and on.
Oh, it's a deep program, and
oh, it's
yes.
crazy.
Well, I'm watching your Adobe Premiere series, and if someday comes and you do one on After Effects, I'm sure I'll watch that, because I am lost in After Effects right now. I've not spent that much time in it.
You know what a lot of people don't know, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but is After Effects actually can work with Premiere at the same time. So if you load both programs up, you can actually take a clip from Premiere and say, edit this in After Effects. You'll go over, it'll send it to After Effects. You can do all the effects things with it, and then it will automatically update it in Premiere. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to render it. You don't have to do anything. It just automatically says, okay, we're going to put a glow on this text over in Premiere now. And it will go ahead and update Premiere automatically and sync it. You save your project, and then when you render your project with Premiere, the After Effects are already in there. That's
Very
pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it for this week. We'll be coming back sometime. We'll talk about that in post-show. We'll be coming back to do the February images. So until next show, keep shooting. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Let me put up post-show.
Post-show.
All right. So since the computer didn't crash, let me get this out of the way. Computer didn't crash. I replaced the CPU, added new RAM, added a new hard drive, and it all turned out to be this guy. The SATA,
I told you. Did I tell you?
Yes. It turned out to be the SATA cable.
Oh, they're the worst.
I replaced the SATA cable, and yesterday I actually plugged it into a new SATA port too. So it could have been that, but I'm going to say it was this. This is more likely the scenario than the port.
Right.
This is what connects the hard drive to the motherboard, for those who don't know. But once I replaced this, and I did stress tests on the machine all day yesterday, back and forth, not a single error that I was getting before. I was getting those hard drive errors in the event viewer in Windows 10. Not a single one yesterday at all. And all I did was replace this, basically.
Yeah, I absolutely love SATA cables, their size. I like the ease of plugging them in, but their durability in a machine that doesn't move sucks. Yeah. I mean, I have had more problems with failed SATA cables than any other problem in a computer. A buddy of mine who's a photographer called me up one night and he's like, man, my computer won't boot no more. Just stop booting. I'm like, what? Like, how does that happen? It's an SSD. And he's like, yeah, it just won't boot. Yeah, sure as shooting. We nailed it down to he was cleaning his computer out and he bumped a SATA cable and it wasn't in absolutely dead on straight. And it was just freaky, like weird. Oh, I'm not going to boot now. Oh, I'll boot now. Not going to boot now, though.
Well, if this one doesn't have the clips, I don't know how well you can see that, but it doesn't have the clips. And you're right. Yeah. If some of them have little clips that will lock it into place.
Yep, that's all I buy anymore.
This one doesn't. And like you said, AD, if you had, maybe you're dusting it out, which you should do every now and then, and you bumped it and it wasn't quite connected fully, you would get those random things where it works, doesn't work, works, doesn't work.
Yeah.
This one, if you look, normally they're like this. This one has an angled one, which sometimes is good. In this case, the way it was, because this was an angled, it actually had to be like this.
Yep, I've had them like that as well.
Yeah, and I think that right there, that bend is probably what over time destroyed it.
Did you know, too, that there are also SATA 2 cables?
Yes.
And you got to be careful because you go to Best Buy and they say SATA cables on them, or SATA cables, however you want to say it, SATA. And they're actually SATA 2, not 3. So you'll have more problems. Performance issues because it can't get the data across the line quick enough, especially with an SSD. So, yeah, they're just the worst thing ever.
Well, fortunately, I have a whole box full of other ones, so I just swapped out another one.
Yeah.
And I did need to upgrade the RAM and the CPU in that one anyway. So the only thing I wouldn't have done is buy a new SSD for it, because apparently the SSD that was in there was just fine.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I often use that same excuse to get new hardware. I didn't say that out loud, but yeah, I have SATA cables go all the time too, Mike. Yep, know exactly what you're talking about. Yep, understand, totally get it.
All right, how's the schedule looking for the future?
So we are waiting for title right now. So we are probably going to close either next week or the following week early. So I'm probably out for the next 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
Unfortunately. So I know we've crammed a lot in.
We have got 3 weeks in a row, I believe. So yeah.
And I just don't want to make a promise that I'll be someplace where I'm probably not going to be able to be. So I am down to the final teardown in here right now, and that's what I was telling you with the mic or with the camera wasn't working when I turned on Skype, and among other things. But so I'm down to one camera, one light. Yeah, so I don't have any of the stuff in here that normally I have like 4 cameras and 3 lights and all this stuff. So everything's packed in boxes and ready to go. And we've literally got to move.
Night, Willie.
Hey, yeah, Willie, thanks for coming in, man. We've literally got to move in probably like 2 days. So
wow.
So
that's
we have movers.
Yeah,
we have movers coming for the couches and all that kind of stuff. But we're not taking. Actually, all of the appliances are at the new house.
Okay.
All of our appliances are staying here to the next people. So for us, it's just couches and chairs and bookcases, dining room tables, beds. Basically, that stuff's going on the moving truck, and then I'm taking a U-Haul to take all the boxed stuff, and then the computers and everything will go last, which will be in the car, all strapped down and all of that kind of stuff because of shipping, but or vibration. But yeah, so and if anybody's wondering, if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me through Mike. I will no longer be, as of tomorrow, Facebook and Instagram for me are no more. So I will not be on either one of those networks in any capacity. So not just personal or fan page or anything. Yeah. So my pages will be gone. If you want to connect or you dig my work or that kind of stuff, it's got to be at the website or LO or Google Plus or one of those networks. But
I joined LO. I think Andy Bloxham, invited me to come on it back in the early days. I did, but I never really did anything on there. How is LO doing?
Well, LO is a real artistic, like a real San Franciscoan kind of artistic endeavor. And so it's not just photographers, it's all forms of art. So if you really like painting and modern art and classic art and performance art, it's all of that. It is art to the core. And so I'm almost, as a photographer, when I go there, I almost feel like I'm not worthy to be there, even though I have a good following there and I have a lot of people who like to look at my stuff, and I don't post there anymore. So I'm going to start firing that up and doing a little bit. I'll still be on places like Flickr, and I have a Tumblr page that basically mirrors my website. I think of all of that stuff like, well, if you don't like going to somebody's website and you're a big Tumblr fan, then you can just follow me over there if you want. But the latest developments with Facebook and everything that's gone on, and now that we're in the post show, I cannot with clear conscience support a platform that does what they're doing to people. And Instagram is owned by Facebook, so I'm not going to support them either.
And I started a Tumblr thing a long time ago and really did nothing with it. I'm wondering if all of this that's going on with Facebook right now may be, more people going back to Google Plus.
Well, it's Google's under fire as well.
Google uses your data too. So
So I think it comes down to, I hate to say this, but it comes down to who gets caught at this point, because we don't know. I held up I didn't like Facebook's practices for a long time with the borderline fraud stuff, with the click farming for business pages. And now this new thing where they want you to sign up with a separate account for your business page. This big banner comes up under your business page that says log in. I'm like, I am logged in.
I hadn't seen that yet.
And it's asking me, yeah, it's on, well, yeah, I think my page is still up, my personal page. It was the last. If you're young and under the age of 17, don't go read my post because it was pretty not safe for work. But I basically said it was bull that they're doing this. I don't know what it is, and I'm not gonna log in or click anything to do this. I don't know what it is. And it's interesting to me that all of this stuff is popping up now after they've been bagged over this Cambridge Analytics thing, and I just think it's it's telling. It's very telling that suddenly, and even watching the interviews with Zuckerberg, who's like not even a holding partner, isn't he like just a outside guy now or a CEO?
I thought he was still.
Does he still make money? Who knows? Who knows?
I'm not positive, but I thought he did.
Yeah, and he, even listening to him talk, his body language and everything else, you can tell he's like, crap. We're busted on this. And I mean, essentially what they did is, and for those people who don't know how it works, I've developed several apps for Facebook. So I'm a developer for Facebook, and I have a developer's account. And when you go in there, there's a specific set of laws and rules that you have to abide by. Mm-hmm. And I could not do what Cambridge Analytica did, and you could not do that, Mike. So for Facebook to say we didn't know what they were doing with it is a lie.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I look at it and go,
they somehow let them pull that data?
There is no way that you, as my friend on Facebook, can give someone privacy access to my private data, and that's what Cambridge Analytica did. Yeah. They basically put out an app that said, hey, if you'd like to take this test for us, you need to say it's okay for us to see your friends list. Well, they didn't just see the friends list, but you were actually giving them permission in the small print to open up the privacy to your friends' data as well.
Yeah.
So while they accessed 70 million or whatever it was, it ended up being, or 270,000 ended up being 270 million or something like that. Anyways, it was a friend of a friend of a friend. It basically just opened the floodgates, which shouldn't be possible. I shouldn't be able to go on Facebook and say, hey, you know what? You can have all of Mike's data.
Yeah.
He's my friend. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Facebook is saying that, well, you didn't know you did that. I mean, you wrote the software. You wrote the development software. Don't tell me that you don't know what's going on with something you wrote. I mean, anybody who's written a piece of software knows exactly to the T what the software can do and what it can't do. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in open development forum, you know what data they have access to, what they're allowed to do. So
it really, since we're off on this tangent, we're in the post show.
It's a tangent. Don't get me started.
It's just a tip of the iceberg of all the stuff that's being done with our personal data. That in some ways we have to be online and do things online and that kind of stuff to some of these things. And even if you don't, though, even if you aren't online, some of your data is online anyway. Take for instance, Equifax.
Right.
Even people who weren't customers of Equifax, they had their data and then they lost it to these people. So right. If you're, I've known people who are not going to get on social media. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. They don't go online that much, but yet their data was still in Equifax and got stolen.
Oh, yeah, everything you do. Yeah. We talked about it today. We were in Staples today, right? And so you know how you at the end of a sale at Staples or at the beginning, they'd be like, are you a Staples Rewards customer?
Yeah.
Right? You go to all these places. Are you a Staples Reward? Are you a Best Buy Rewards customer? Whatever. So if you say no to that, the next question is, would you like a printed receipt or one sent to your email?
Yeah.
Or text it to you? What you don't realize is when you have it emailed to you or when you have it texted to you, you are now giving them your email.
Yeah.
You're on the list.
Yep.
Right. And so also that data from your sale that you've made is now linked to your email, which now it goes to your profile.
Yeah.
And all of your emails are now linked to you. And you use a credit card. The credit card sale is linked to you and is now put in your permanent file. They have a profile of you from using a credit card. This is why this was all developed, is so that they could better market, because the people that are out there making money off marketing and advertising and everything else, and I don't want to be on a soapbox here for more than another minute, but all of those people basically have to sell you a product. If you notice, Hulu, Netflix, all this kind of stuff are starting to have more commercials. YouTube has got its whole thing with its ad campaigns. You know why? Because no one who spends money watches a lot of television over the air anymore.
Right.
So commercials on TV, we skip them. We DVR something, we skip the commercials. We never see the commercials, but they have to get this advertising to us somehow. So now it's done targeted because they can say, well, this guy in this house likes this stuff and he does this, and it takes 6.5 seconds for him to click on a link on a certain page. If we show him a color, that information is
that big data. They want to link as much stuff to you as possible. You mentioned the thing with Staples. I was in Walmart yesterday, and as I'm standing in line, they asked me, do you have the Walmart app? Somebody was standing there. Their job was to ask everybody as they walked up, do you have the Walmart app? You can save a bunch of money on your purchase today if you download it.
There's the hook.
Yeah. Nope. I don't have the app and I don't want it.
Right. And so I'll tell you guys right now, my website has full analytics. I see everything that you do on my website. One, for security for myself so that I don't get compromised, because I have to keep an eye on that. Mm-hmm. Two, I use it to make better content by knowing what you guys like, because it's really hard to get people to tell you what they like about your work. But on the evil side of that, if I'm a social media company, I'm making profiles and selling your data to someone else. Like I would never do that on my website, because that's not, I'm not a social media site. I collect data like what photos do people click on the most. Oh, okay. So now I know people really dig my abandoned stuff. So I want to shoot more abandoned stuff because I enjoy it and I know it's working. There you go. That's non-evil use of data. But when you get to the point where you're building profiles on people and predicting where they'll be or what they'll be doing and then throwing something in front of them. And if you've ever, I've had things where I've talked about a subject with somebody in a car, come up and jumped on Facebook and saw an ad for what I was talking about in my car. And that's not a coincidence. You might think it is, but it's not, because your phone is always waiting for those magic words to be said if you have an assistant on your phone, and it's always recording. And some of that data is being analyzed, and unfortunately, some of it's being used for everything.
I've seen it happen too, where you talk about something and then later it pops up somewhere. And you think about your Facebook information. Things you like, things you dislike, when you thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever it is.
It's a profile of you.
Things you click on, ads you click on, or whenever you say something about, you check in at a different place or whatever else. All that is incredibly rich data.
Right.
And, somebody, if it's not protected, somebody's going to abuse it.
Yeah, and it's the thing is that the abuse happened. And a lot of people got hoodwinked over it, and a lot of people who maybe should have been educated rather than controlled. And I don't like that with Facebook, so I'm making my stand. And my stand is I'm removing myself from there. And they have, in the last 3 weeks, Mike, they've made it a lot harder to remove your account. I have to actually request to have I downloaded all of the data that they have on me. They had 600 megabytes of data on me.
How do you know? How do you get to see that?
It's on your. I'm going to make a video on how to leave Facebook effectively, and so they have the data. I downloaded the data, and then you have to actually write to them and say, I want to delete my account now. You can't just say. They allow you to deactivate it, which all it does is stays dormant until you log in the next time, and then it reactivates it immediately, and everything starts back up. But I want to delete my account and I want my data deleted, so I have to write and request it now. And Instagram is the same way, by the way. So, and so it's just a little ridiculous. Well, and Jan, I saw your message out there, and I totally understand. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. For me, my photography website is a business, and I can't just guess. People who guess about what business is going to work fail. And so for me, knowing if my logo is working or if my page layout is working, all of the things that I teach people about reading analytic data about the people who visit their websites helps them make a better choices about their business. That's what it really comes down to. If I find that my logo is offending people, I better get rid of it, or else I'm not going to be doing this business anymore. So it's things like that. But yeah, definitely, it doesn't show me like where you live.
I'm thinking her comment was not about you. I think it was more about Facebook or something.
Yeah. Either way, I just want to clear that up for everybody else.
And maybe to wrap this up is this all comes around to one thing. If your business like AD here or Scott, we talked about earlier, if you're trying to sell something, photography related, not photography related, you really need to have your own website, and that needs to be the center of your universe, your online universe is your website. Because you never know what Instagram's going to do or Facebook's going to do or Google Plus is going to do. Even if you don't do something like this where you disagree with what they're doing, they may change their algorithms, and all of a sudden you're not getting the exposure you used to get. So
they've done that already.
And they've done that tons of times. Yep. So the thing with your web page is, AD and I both had this. We didn't like our host provider. You were over at Bluehost at one point. I was too. You get mad at them. They're not giving you the service you need. You can just move your host somewhere else. It's still your world. You own that domain. You own the Explorer.com. I own jpeg2RAW.com. As long as I pay for it, it's mine, and I can host it anywhere I want.
One of the things, just going back to this data thing, Mike, and I teach all of my students how to read the data and what the right way to use the data is. And Google doesn't allow you access to private data, just so you know. It only shows me what you do on my website. It doesn't show me what you do anywhere else. It doesn't show me your browser or any of that stuff. But what's really important about that is one of the things that I noticed is that people were not waiting for my web page to load completely. So while for me, when I was on Bluehost, it was fast for me because I look at it every day and it's cached for me. It wasn't for other people, and I didn't know that. And then I started having people be like, yeah, your site, I like it, but it's really slow. And you were on it before when I was on Bluehost, and now that I'm on DreamHost. Now the difference between the two of those is crazy.
We just saw it tonight. I mean, I went to the next page and it was like that. It was fast.
And I'm running a website or a server with 26 other websites on it that are just as big as mine. So I would have known that if it wasn't for analytic data to see how long people were on my site or to see how long they wouldn't wait for a page to load, which you don't know that. You can't tell. But they do give you the tools to do that. And right now, I want to believe in Google and trust them for now. But, I'm also very leery of any data company. I don't have a problem with people seeing my data. I really don't. I have a problem with people misusing it, though, and this was a misuse case. So
the temptation to misuse it is so huge.
Yep. Yeah, I love Google Assistant, and I love all of the things where you could talk to your computer, Cortana, and all this stuff, and it does things.
I have an Alexa or the Echo, three different types of Echoes in the house somewhere.
Yeah, and I love
those
it.
Things, yeah.
Yeah, it's great, and I don't mind. I know they're listening to my voice, and I know they're analyzing my voice, and I know they're tracking my habits and all that stuff. Fine, but you do that for your business so you can better serve me. I'm great with that, but don't sell it to somebody who's going to try to brainwash me or, cheat me out of stuff or manipulate me. Yeah, that's where the line gets drawn in the sand for me. So I'm sorry to tie up the whole post show, but I just wanted people to know I wasn't leaving.
Fun. I can get off on some tangents there too, and you did it for me tonight, so that's good.
Okay.
All right. Chat room. We're gonna Jan. I don't know who all is still left out there. I know Willie had to head off to bed, and Amber did too. Christina, Jan, thank you for coming. I think Amber said let it off. My husband's a big data machine learning. Yep, Christina, I develop big data too on for what I do not for customers, but our internal stuff. So sometime I should chat with your husband. Anyway, good night, chat room. We'll see you next time.
Stay creative.